Outing Ernest Hemingway. A prose poem by Vincent D. Pasquale in 6 chapters, all rights reserved. Halfway down the stairs, I remember that I have left my hat in the cab. It reminds me of Dan, who never wore a hat even in January's winter. Dan is idea, inextricably linked to Ernest Hemingway, who never wore a hat either, but always had a rakish angle when he did. It was November of last year, or maybe it was a few years since, that I fell in love with Dan. It was the start of a bad turn. Dan was the tombstone heir of the Bronx, taken in by a lady who hoped to rise. It was a Saturday morning when we met. The weather that day was exactly like today. There was a smell of the Columbia game in the air, and a roar of marigolds that I had been cutting on my hands. When Dan pulled up and asked if I wanted a ride, it was the first of thousands of thoughtlessly kind acts that made me love him. He called me Marigold Boy. We rode off, not even bothering to close the gates or feed the cats. See his hands and newly washed wavy hair in the autumn light. I was sure he'd never been in love before. For my part, I never had a chance of not being taken in hand. The bus smells always of insecticide. It was in anthropology, where we were studying the Kikuyu, a matrilineal people of East Africa, that Dan said, "Read Hemingway." He gave me a copy of The Sun Also Rises. Its pages were falling out. Later he said, "Going to Pamplona to run with the bulls, you really must come." We flew Iceland Air, 199 round trip, open return, New York to Luxembourg, stopping in Reykjavik. Before boarding, Frances, the lady who had Dan, smoked pot in the deserted chapel, while Dan and I took tea in his smoggy garden. The Sun Also Rises is a sinister book if read too soon in life. Now when I reread it, I see it for what it is, an existential parable. But then I thought it was a blueprint. Tonight I dream again of being trapped in a museum in the rain at the end of the world. I feel the desperation and the sadness, see the rain pelting and puddling the marble steps, the clouds close like a curtain.
What am I supposed to do? Now that the one person who could stop my tears is the one who made me cry. I keep thinking that if I'd done anything differently, maybe things would have worked out. But I can't keep living in the past. Sometimes what we want is not what we're supposed to get. As much as it hurts, this is what I have to say.